Hey everybody, Bobby Umar here, and I'm just here to start a conversation with you about mental health awareness. So now, Bell Let's Talk has been doing this initiative every year, and it's raised a lot of money, it's raised a lot of awareness for mental health initiatives and ending the stigma, and I think it's good to have the conversation. Before I begin, the one thing I will say is that there's a few people that are posting about an issue with a Bell Media employee who was fired for her mental health issues, and I think we should address that because I think while that's definitely a fair criticism, and I think that the Bell Canada or Bell Mobility should be called out on that. Um, I think that also they're also doing a lot of good, and so we have to be aware of the fact that they're doing a lot of good too. So I want to give credit to that as well, but also call out that they should address that issue and make sure they nip that in the bud or find out what's going on with the details of that. So I want to share my story of mental health awareness, and I encourage you to comment below, share this with other people, and maybe share your stories about share your experience with mental health issues or challenges that you may have had. I mean, I've had for the longest time, I certainly have been a very strong-minded person, but I'll share a couple stories. One is many years ago when I was in the corporate world, I had an anxiety attack, and I didn't know it was an anxiety attack at the time. All I knew was I felt super nervous, and I couldn't function, and I felt like going home, and I'd screwed up on a big project, and then my manager's manager called me into his office, and he said, Bobby, what's wrong with what's going on? What's wrong with you? What's going on? Like, why did you screw up on that big project, whatever? And I just sat there stone faced, didn't know what to say, and it was actually really awkward. Um, but I felt humiliated. I felt like a total loser. I felt embarrassed that I couldn't say anything. He was, and he just looked at me like, "Why are you not talking?" It was actually odd because I'm a very talkative guy and I'm very loud and exuberant, but in that moment, I just said nothing, and then he just, because I didn't say anything, and at the time I was having an anxiety attack, I didn't know. Uh, he just said, "Okay, why don't you go home and think about it and come back tomorrow?" And so I went home, and then I saw a counselor, and then I described what happened. He said, "Oh, you had an anxiety attack," and I was like, "What? No." I didn't have an anxiety attack. I don't have anxiety attacks. No, because I'm calm and I'm chill and I'm like, chill to the bone, man. How can I have an anxiety attack? But it turns out, he's like, well, your heart rate was up, you're breathing heavy, you couldn't talk, you were sweating, you had sweaty palms, and you were feeling fatigued and nervous, and yeah, that was a total anxiety attack, classic anxiety attack. And I was like, oh, and it took me a few days to realize, okay, you know what, maybe I did have that. So that was my first time ever having an anxiety attack, and the first part for me was disbelief. I couldn't believe it happened to me, but because I couldn't believe it happened to me, it tells me that you would never believe who it happens to. It's got to be happening to people out there. I mean, I'm a strong-minded person, but it's still happening to me, and it doesn't matter if we're strong-minded or weak-minded. It happens to everybody. We all. The point of this is that the reason we're talking is because we all have something like this. We've all been through something, or we know someone that's going through this, or we know people, or we don't know they're going through it because people aren't talking about it. So that's why it's so important for us to talk. And I'll tell you even more. A few days later, I didn't even go to tell my director or my manager's manager that what had happened. I was too embarrassed again to even tell him that I had an anxiety attack because I felt like that was an excuse. It was an excuse for my poor behavior at work. And that's part of the problem. That's the stigma that people have that have mental health challenges, that they can't even talk about it, to try to make people understand that, what, this is a real, legitimate concern that we have. Whether you have physical exhaustion or mental exhaustion or any sort of, medical issue, people will usually be supportive, but it's mental health that tends to be the one that's least supported of all these. That's why we're having the conversation. And again, if you have stories or you have comments, comment below. Let me know what you're thinking. If you like this, by all means, share the hearts and the love, and share or maybe do your own Facebook Live and talk about your challenges with mental health. I'm going to do one. I'm going to do another one for you. Yes, thank you for joining me too. By Fiona, Paula, Bonnie, everybody else. I've already shared stuff on Twitter and Facebook. I've shared on Instagram, and I'm sharing my Facebook biz page now here. I'm going to share the second big thing for me personally when it comes to mental health issues is my food. And one of the biggest struggles for me with being a food addict and having what's clinically described as binge eating disorder, a lot of people don't take me seriously. They think, "Oh, come on, Bobby, just if you just do this diet, or if you just get a nutritionist, you'll solve your problems." But the truth is, Food addiction is mental. That's why do you think I see a psychotherapist every month through the diabetes clinic? Because she helps me process my emotions, process my feelings, and help me manage my mindfulness and my attitude and my belief systems to help me navigate this. Food addiction is really hard because unlike most addictions, you can't go cold turkey. You have to have food. So I'm constantly struggling with eating the right thing and not and trying to be as good as I can to be healthy, especially now that I'm diabetic and all that kind of stuff. So the whole idea of food addiction is a big part of mental health. I find that my mental energy is spent thinking about food, where my next meal is going to be, how can I cheat, how can I get around it, what if I just have a little bit of this, what if I don't have this, how am I going to feel if this happens, who do I talk to? I'm feeling overwhelmed with all the decisions and the thinking and the mental energy spent when it comes to dealing with food addiction and binge eating. So that to me is it's probably the biggest mental health challenge of my life because I feel pretty good in many areas of my life. This is the one that I really need to work on. And so that's why I talk about it. I'm talking about it now with you because I think it's so important for us to get out there and share stories and tell people it's okay. It's okay if you struggle. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay. It's courageous to talk with us. It's not a weakness. It's completely understandable. It's completely human. So I hope you enjoy the thoughts I'm sharing. I hope you will share your own thoughts below and let me know what you're thinking about when it comes to mental health. Have you had any mental health challenges over the years? If so, how have you dealt with them? Have you heard of somebody that's had mental health challenges and how have you helped them? How have you helped support them? How do you listen to them? How do you understand them? How do you make people listen to you if you have challenges? These are the things that we have to think about. And so many of us, I know so many people in their daily lives that are going through this. Some of the best people I've ever met in my life, I can even tell you right now, like I know right now some very, very super talented, really smart people I've known in my youth as well as even 10, 20 years ago. And yeah, so many of them had mental breakdowns or they suffer from depression or some were bipolar, some others had other types of addictions, and whether it's food, sex, drugs, they've all struggled. And I'm here to say it's human, it's normal. We have to be more understanding about it. We have to be more willing to listen to people and try to end the stigma. So that's why I'm sharing this post. And that's why I'm talking about my challenges when it comes to mental health. And I hope you'll share your stories with me as well because, we'd like to, if you share, retweet, comment, use the hashtag Bell Let's Talk, the hashtag Bell Let's Talk, Bell will actually share 5 cents and we'll actually put together a huge amount of money. And I think the last few years they've generated like 16 million impressions, which is a lot. What I used to do is I used to send a text to all my friends using Bell Let's Talk and just, it's an opportunity for me to reach out because the texting is easy. You just send a quick, hey, how's it going? I'm thinking of you. I'm just trying to raise awareness to Bell Let's Talk initiatives for mental health and to end the stigma. And you send that to 100 people. It doesn't take long. You just like instead of spending half an hour watching a television show, why don't you spend half an hour just texting 100 people in your network with a nice message? Now, I think you have to be on the Bell. You have to be the Bell plan. If you have a different one, then don't. But you could also tweet them with the Bell Let's Talk. There's so many different ways to leverage this. I think it's a great initiative to reach out and just connect with people and just say, hey, listen, I'm here. I'm thinking about you. I'm listening. So, what's my call to action, guys? Just get out there and tweet and retweet and text and retext and share and comment and recomment and use the hashtag, develop the awareness. Call on Bell to continue building the awareness. Call on Bell if they have any challenges, like if there's some issues where there was an article being posted where they didn't do well with somebody, do right by someone with mental health. Call on them to act in the appropriate way. But I do thank you for sharing your time with me. I'll share a written post later on about the mental health challenges. But I encourage you to share what mental health challenge have you had? I would love to hear your stories. Feel free to comment below. Let me know what you think because I will treat it with respect, dignity, and love. And I'll do that, but I'll do the best I can. All right? So thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And let's get out there and continue to have real talk, real conversations to help and support real people dealing with real issues. Thanks so much.